Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Noe with Speakeasy HR, presented by Payroll Partners. We are back for another brand new episode, brand new guest, and we are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you are watching, thank you for spending part of our day, part of your day with us. And I am in the Midwest where the weather just goes up and down and up and down. And same with my guest who is in Ohio. So I am thrilled to welcome Tammy Gillenwater to Speakeasy HR. How are you, Tammy?
I'm good, David. Thanks for having me. Always excited to talk payroll.
it's it's one of those things that every business has to do, whether they
Yep.
want to do it or not. And obviously, in the world that you live in and we live in, it's all about technology and how to leverage that for a business of all shapes and sizes. So we're going to dive into that a little bit. And you have a new book coming out with John Bernatovich, who is the HR Like a Boss, who is one of my uh, first, what, 15 episodes I think I had John on. So he was gracious to come on in 2024. Yeah, he was episode 17. My gosh. So now
Wow.
episode 65. So that seems like forever ago. um for those of you for those who do not know you, Tammy, and obviously we
Mhm.
probably have some of your colleagues potentially watching, but if you want to just tell everybody about yourself, your background. Did you want to do payroll
Yeah.
when you were in seventh grade, kind of thing? You know?
No, I think most people can identify with the payroll chose me tagline, and that is exactly the same for me. And not only did payroll choose me, but as I was kind of writing my story for Payroll Like a Boss, I realized I spent more than half of my career trying to get out of payroll. Um, didn't appreciate it at all for the profession that it is. And it's interesting because I did fall into payroll. I've been doing payroll for well over 30 years. My job that I had prior to coming to Willery is where I kind of met my mentor. She was my boss. In hindsight, I don't really think I was qualified for the job that she hired me for, but I think she saw some things in me that felt like I had a lot of potential, and I am grateful to her for that every day. She taught me almost everything I know.
Yeah.
Um, but when the time came and my department was outsourced, I had already known John, and he offered me a position with him. And that really opened my eyes up to a lot. When you work for the same organization for a long time, you're kind of sheltered. And I work with a lot of different industries and some complex payrolls, things that I'd never experienced in my previous job. I did not have any hourly employees in California, no CBAs. So it's been really interesting. And I started to really understand this is it takes a special kind of person to do payroll. And in the meantime, I started seeing how payroll professionals were treated, even how they thought of themselves. And I realized at some point that our own mindsets have gotten in our way. And my mindset really got in my way. I bet you I majored in 8 different things in college because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, but it wasn't payroll. Not that there was an offer, any kind of payroll program. But since then, it just really started my eyes got opened at one point, and I started branching out my network to those outside of Ohio. Imagine that. And I learned that there are a lot of people who are really advocating for the profession, especially now that it's changing so much. It is not the same profession that it was 10, 15 years ago.
No,
So
absolutely
here we
not.
are.
Yeah, absolutely. So how far back do you with John, having a relationship with John, when did that start?
So when I worked for a nationwide bank before, and we were actually a client of his. So
Got it.
he had
Okay.
provided some temps for us in our payroll department, but I also knew him from, well, at the time it was the American Payroll Association,
Yep.
and Willery sponsored. They were pretty involved with the Cleveland chapter, which is my chapter. And they were always a sponsor at the Ohio Payroll Conference, and it was my favorite table to go hang out at. And so when I did lose my job at the bank, it was just a matter of months before someone called me and said, "Do you want to come do some project work for us?" And I've been with them going on 11 years now.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I think will always be so important, and it's about you had mentioned of having a mentor. Big
Mhm.
supporter of that. Having great connections and being able to continue to build your network in your industry and other industries, and you just will never know when that person will come along and like John,
Yes.
and so definitely lean into that for folks who are maybe not able to get out much and network much to events, but definitely encourage people to get out of their desks, out of their offices, and go network and go meet people, even if you're not in sales. Like
Right.
find something related to HR, payroll, accounting, something, insurance, right? Any industry you're in, there's probably events you can go to. So
Yeah. And it's funny because while I'm generally an outgoing person, I am until you put me into a room full of people who I think know more than I do. And I found myself in that situation. It was a conference that John and our consulting director and I went to, and her and I were kind of like sticking close to each other. And John said, "We're going to have a contest. I need you guys to go around and meet as many people as you can and collect as many business cards as you can, and we'll see who wins." And that was like, isn't it funny how some of the smallest moments in life end up being game changing for you?
yep,
Because
absolutely.
that made me more comfortable with going around and meeting people.
Yeah. So this is a question I ask every guest that comes on. So what's the biggest piece of advice you've ever received in your career?
Ooh, I've received a lot of advice in my career. Um, that is a really hard one, David, because I have received a lot of really good advice. I think the networking is a big piece of it. I think that, and this, I don't think this was received by any one individual. I just listen to a lot of podcasts and I learn a lot. And just hearing people talk about how, we have to really have this mindset and these innate qualities that are necessary to do payroll. We're not sitting behind a desk, in our own little world. We need to reach out to people. We need to develop relationships because our employees are our clients. And I think that was good advice. And then you'll probably laugh at this one. Um, when I was learning, and this person, there's a CEO for a client that I had at one time, and she actually kind of kicked off this whole journey for me that led me to the book. But I was delivering findings and recommendations from a payroll assessment, and I had already delivered it to her, and she was a very direct person. And we went to I was delivering to her leadership team, and she called me and she said, "I need you to do one thing for me." And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "This is my leadership team. We're going to get to the point and not use so many words because I will use all the words." So I thought that was really great. And the reason why that advice was so helpful to me is because when I started realizing, oh, if I need to write an executive summary or a business case, that's how I need to start presenting things. Get to the point and get to what is important to the people you're presenting to.
Yeah. Yeah. Great advice. Okay. So world famous envelope icebreaker game. We
Okay.
have 15 numbers. So as we transition, think of a number 1 through 15 and we're going to see what's in there. All right. 1
All
through
right,
15.
I'm going for 10.
10. All right. She picks number 10. Let's see what's in the envelope. It is okay. You're in charge of renaming HR. What's the funniest yet oddly accurate title
Oh no.
you'd give it? So,
The funniest yet oddly accurate. Oh my
yes.
gosh, that's a really hard question, David. Um I have no idea. Can I pick another one?
Yeah. Oh,
All
yeah,
right.
you can. All
Let's
right, what
go for
number you
number
got?
8.
Number
8.
8. Number 8. Okay, let's try this one. Number 8. It is. What's your "I wasn't expecting to love this" moment in your career?
I wasn't expecting to love presenting.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I haven't been on a ton of podcasts. They scared me at first. But I really like, only because I like to sit down and have this conversation, and most podcast hosts are really easy to talk to.
Yeah.
And so it is really fun for me. And if it can get that word out about how awesome payroll is, then I'm all for it.
I was definitely where you sit with that because before I did a podcast, I was like, "There's no way I'm ever going on a podcast," like, I could talk about payroll and HR and things, but, like, am I really gonna go on a podcast and talk about it? So, when people come on and they're like, "Yeah, I've never really been on a lot of podcasts," I kinda look at it as I'm trying to get them out of their comfort zone, and hopefully it's in
Yeah.
a good, safe environment for them to feel, you know, confident in what they're saying, and so, I'm glad that I can give you the opportunity, and hopefully John kinda gave you a little bit of insight about what it was like being on this. So,
Mhm.
here we are, and,
Here we are.
we've got a lot to get into, so I definitely wanna
Okay.
get to what we have to talk about, and we do have, for those watching live, we have a fun contest. So, by Tuesday, tomorrow, which is St. Patrick's Day, 2 p.m. Eastern, you have to go in the chat, whether you're watching live, whether you watch the on-demand version on LinkedIn, you have to put in boss, the word boss in the chat, and you will be entered for a free copy of the brand new book, Payroll Like a Boss, which is out April 28th.
Yes.
All right. So this book is kind of the not the sequel, I guess, right? But the HR Like a Boss was the first one, and now
Yeah.
we've got Payroll Like a Boss. So you are one of the co-authors of this book, correct? You and John?
Mhm.
So it is gonna be out in just a couple of weeks. So if you have not heard about this, go see Tammy's profile on LinkedIn or her colleague, John Bernadovich, and, looks like we already have Danny Schultz. Thanks for
My
shining
friend
the light on a
Danny.
key function. There we go, Danny. Thank you for joining. Don't forget to put the word boss in there. Or no, does he work for you, or is he a friend?
Danny's actually featured in the book.
Okay, well, thank you, Danny. So he's probably
Mhm.
getting a copy, but he can maybe give
Yep.
a copy. There you go. So this is going to be ongoing for the next 24 hours. So if you are watching live, just put in the word boss in the comment section. You don't have to do anything else to be entered into that drawing. So, Tammy, this is going to be a really good conversation. We're going to dive into that. Before we get into the topic of the day and what we're really here to talk about, just a couple of words from our presenting sponsor, Payroll Partners, and we will be back to it. So grab a drink of water, whatever you want, and we'll be back in about 1 minute.
Finding a new employee takes time and money. For one position on a single job board, you could easily spend a minimum of $5 to $10 a day advertising a job post. It's worth noting that the average time it takes to hire a new employee is 36 days. However, it can take longer than that. You could find yourself paying hundreds of dollars a month for a single job board. And if you're using multiple job boards for multiple positions, this could add up to thousands of dollars a month. There is a much simpler and more affordable way of finding the right candidate. At Payroll Partners, we offer an applicant tracking system to help manage your hiring process. Our ATS is customizable, allowing you to decide which days you want to run the job and when to close it so you don't break the bank. And this feature lets you e-blast your network, posting jobs on multiple boards at once, all managed in one location. Payroll Partners, elevating your payroll and HR experience.
So, technology, payroll, HR, you might have a small business, you might be growing, you may not know what technology to use. So, we are an option. We work with a lot of small to mid-sized businesses. We're located in Cincinnati region. We're in Kentucky where I live, which is the bourbon theme of this podcast. So, look us up payrollpartners.net. Would love to potentially work with you and your technology for the business. So we do have a couple in the comments. So thank you for commenting, Michelle. And is it Onsley? Is that right? Hopefully I didn't butcher that. I'm very sorry. Yep. So we got a couple in the drawing already. So again, the contest is for a free copy of the new Payroll Like a Boss book that Tammy and John and a few others were involved in. So you have 24 hours. If you're watching this live, if you're on LinkedIn and see this come across your news feed, go in there and put in the word boss. All right. So Tammy, we have some topic questions to get to, which is really the reason we're here. The powerful framework to start doing payroll like a boss is our top shelf topic for today. And a couple of fun rapid fire questions we'll start with. So
Okay.
payroll pet peeve. What instantly makes you say, "Oh no"?
We've always done it that way. And
Oh
I
my
say oh
gosh.
no out loud when I hear that.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. One payroll habit every organization should implement immediately.
They need to properly develop their payroll resources, and understand that, you to be honest, every client I've had, I have not seen one single development plan that is specifically payroll related. And I think it's because a lot of managers don't understand that there is one and that it's possible. So that's the advice I give is get your payroll resources properly, a proper development plan, because that is the only way they're going to stay current on things that are happening so rapidly.
Yeah. I've got a mini air horn and I am giving you one there for that one. That was great. Okay, the one metric payroll leaders should watch like a hawk.
I would say cost of errors
Cost of errors.
and
Okay.
where those errors are originating from. So when I track cost of errors or when I track errors in general, I always categorize them. It's either payroll error, system error, or employee slash manager error. And we can throw HR in there too. So, yeah, I think that is a really important metric to track because it can help shed light that there are inefficiencies that need to be addressed.
Yep. Love it. Love it. Okay, so you've said payroll is more than compliance. We've talked a little bit about it. It's really about people, and I am a firm believer of that. So
Yes.
so what does that really mean in practice?
Well, when you think about it, payroll is at the center of where your employee trust originates, right? If they're not being paid correctly, they're not going to work for you. And it could tarnish your reputation pretty quickly, right? And everybody wants to attract the best talent. And I always use this example. It's an extreme example, but if you were having surgery on your brain, would you really want your brain surgeon thinking about whether or not he's getting paid, he or she is getting paid on time and correctly on Friday because they have bills to pay, right? And that's what happens is if people are worried about their payroll, it's distracting from productivity. And so there's that aspect to it, but also employee experience. So we have four generations. Some will say five, but I think that's pushing it a little bit. We have four generations currently in the workforce. And as you know, like I'm in the Gen X generation, and we've got, millennials. My son is a millennial. We have completely different styles of working. We have completely different requirements of what we need to do our jobs. And the younger the generation, the more technology is expected. They want to be able to do everything on their phones. So, you really have to think about the employee experience. We have to make things accessible for them. We have to be transparent with them. It scares me when people aren't transparent, and a lot of states are requiring it these days. And we have to also kind of anticipate their needs. What is going to make our employee population more productive and happier here? Earned wage access is a big one, because when we first heard about earned wage access, I sat in a room full of payroll professionals around my age who all got this look on their face, and I'm like, oh, they are not buying this at all. But what we're finding is that younger generations are used to getting things immediately, immediate access, and they've earned the money, so why not? If that's something that can make them happy. And then the last thing that I think is really important with employees is financial wellness products. Those are becoming really big.
Yeah.
And payroll is in a really unique position to be able to determine what kind of financial wellness products will benefit their employees.
Yeah. Danny has a nice comment. I definitely believe in this. Build the bench and succession plan. Fight for the budget for that training. Absolutely. Not
Yes.
many companies say, "Oh, we're gonna spend the most on training in our budget. That's what we're gonna do."
Yeah.
Sure, every manager probably looks at that as, "I could probably be trained more," you know? Does the company spend enough money on training? I think there's a will and an intent of training and
Yeah.
spending the money on training, but the budget sometimes doesn't allow for it. So, um, okay, so what's the biggest misconception leaders have about payroll?
The easy button. Everybody thinks there's a little easy button that we press behind the scenes, and voila, everything's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
I think a lot of leaders right now, understanding the technology trends, may think that a payroll professional is not going to be needed in the future, but that cannot be farther from the truth.
mhm,
Um, One of the smartest things I heard, it was at the HR Tech conference. I heard somebody say, AI is not going to replace employees. It's going to replace employees who don't embrace AI. The AI has to be monitored. And so it's great that all these AI products are coming out and helping us. Some of the things that AI is doing on the employee self service side is amazing.
yeah,
I remember watching a demo about, oh, the employee can type in, why are my taxes $10 higher this pay than last pay, and it gives them an answer like in seconds, and I'm like, okay, I just spent a month answering a ton of questions, and it takes me 20 minutes every time to do the research on that, so that's fantastic. But somebody's got to monitor that.
right.
And the other thing is legislation is changing so quick. And we are even seeing now with the one big beautiful bill overtime reporting requirements, the big vendors are implementing technology to help their clients do the proper reporting. The problem is, if you're in a state like California, if you have a CBA, then you have overtime being paid outside of what FLSA requires, and that's not eligible. So now everybody's scrambling around trying to figure that out too. And you got to have people who can say, all right, the vendor can't deliver anything on this just yet. So here's what we're going to do as our plan B.
Yeah. Yeah, it is so fascinating to see, like, and I can't go to an event without people talking about AI and just
Yeah.
what it's gonna do for businesses and individuals and how to streamline certain things. So, it's gonna be interesting to really see what what happens in the next few years and what jobs are available, what jobs aren't available, and,
Mhm.
you know, I think people in HR and payroll, I see that there is definitely opportunities in the future to have still a career, be
Mhm.
certified. You know, we fully support and will support people getting certified who come on board, right? You
Yeah.
have your CPP. We've had several in the last 2 years get certified with payroll, HR. So, you know, really it's like you went to the comment about the brain surgeon and having somebody that you trust. Because as soon as you pay somebody wrong, I have felt it on Fridays when people are like, "My paycheck's wrong," and
Yep.
it's during COVID, and it was just a constant issue every Friday. I hated Fridays because I knew
Yeah.
payroll was probably going to be wrong, and then I had to figure out what was wrong with it, and we didn't didn't have the right tools or technology. So, um, okay, Tammy, if a company wants to do payroll like a boss, where
Mhm.
should they start?
Where should they start? I think that it's really important. So, this kind of goes into the whole technology advancements too, because the great thing about the technology is that payroll professionals can then start focusing on the things that are really bringing value to the
Yeah,
organization. No one has time right now. Everybody's in firefighting mode all the time, and it's so hard to get out.
yeah,
But when you have the right technology to do the validations for you, to help keep your controls in place, then you can focus your attention on other things. There is People don't realize how much important data payroll has access to. And I think that the first step to doing payroll like a boss is to get your house in order. So walk through all your processes, see where the breakdowns are. Make sure that your system is configured correctly. Get all that out of the way, get everything streamlined, and then you can start working on some metrics, some KPIs, start tracking like where costs are higher, what kind of like where's the labor being distributed. One of the things that I always think about, which is probably something everybody can relate to, is overtime costs. So sometimes you see spikes in overtime. Well, what's causing those spikes in overtime? Is it because your employees are able to log into the scheduling system and say, I need someone to cover my shift, and it's the same person doing it all the time? Is it because you have peak times in the year? And would it make more sense to get some temps in to help cover some of that extra work? So that's some really good analytical insights that payroll can provide to managers and leaders within the organization.
yeah,
There's a lot, there's going to be more.
yeah. Absolutely. So, for those of you who have never watched Speakeasy HR, thank you for joining and hearing this conversation with my guest today, Tammy Gillenwater. If you are looking for content, you can go to speakeasyhr.com, latest blogs, past guests, upcoming events, and more. So, take a look at that. Follow me on LinkedIn. Would love to hear from you and connect with you. And maybe you're going to be the next guest on the show talking about something in your world. So would love to connect with you all. So Tammy, how can payroll move from a reactive function to be more of a strategic partner in the business?
Well, again, start with getting your house in order, but it's also really important. So, business resilience is so important today. Not only, I think we learned a lot through the pandemic, right?
Hmm.
Interestingly, though, payroll proved that you don't have to be on site to do payroll. And so that was something interesting. I mean, the payroll pros picked up and just carried on, and maybe it was a plan B, but they had it in place. And that was on top of some additional like tax benefits that were being offered. They had to manage all of that, and they did it. Um, so having controls in place is really important to make sure, having a continuity plan, and being able to, I say, be proactive but still be prepared to be reactive, because things are always going to happen that you're going to have to react to. But if you can put as much in place as possible to be proactive and get your operation running very smoothly, then you can focus on some of the more, business insights and strategic value that you can bring to the business.
Absolutely. One event I am involved in next month, I can't believe it's already next month, is the HR Collaborative in Cincinnati, April 30th. If you have never been to this event, I would highly look into this. It is a great all day event, one of the best all day events I know of in HR conference for this year. So if you've not seen it or heard of HR Collaborative, I know John has been there in the past as a speaker. Great list of speakers, keynote, in the morning, breakout sessions. You get to meet different people in HR and business and payroll. So take a look at it. HR Collaborative in Cincinnati on April 30th. So hr-collaborative.org is the website. So, all right, Tammy, when implementing or upgrading systems, what mistakes should organizations try to avoid?
First thing they should try to avoid is a lift and shift.
Lift and
Um,
shift.
Never a good idea to do a lift and shift unless everything's working really, really well and you're implementing a system similar to the one you have. But if
Yeah,
everything's running really well, you're probably not implementing a new system.
yeah,
Um, I think that you'll hear me say a million times walk through processes because I am a huge fan of process walkthroughs and not just within the department, but cross functional process walkthroughs. And that is a big area I think that is in need of improvement between HR and payroll. Um, because if one doesn't know what the other one's doing or even why they're doing it, that's where breakdowns tend to happen. So, walking through the processes, being willing to change the processes, because a lot of times they need that. We don't need to do 10,000 spreadsheets. If we can automate it in this new system, let's do it. Manager self service. I see more often than not, manager self service is not implemented. And every time I ask why, it's usually, well, we can't really trust them to do that. And I'm thinking, okay, but right now they're writing out a form and sending that into you. This is going to be quicker, less touch points. So I think that people are not, payroll professionals in general are we're risk averse people. We have to be.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
we're very cautious. We don't adopt technology as quickly as we should. At least a lot don't. There's others who are very good at it. Um, we don't look into, okay, what can this system offer me? As opposed to let's just get what we already are doing and get it in this new system. So I see that all the time. It is very common to when we get a new client, people are struggling with the system.
Mhm.
And we find out two things. Number one, it wasn't configured correctly when it was implemented, or maybe requirements have changed and nobody's done a requirements review since it was implemented. And of course, none of the people that were there at implementation are still at the organization. So it's a good time to take a step back and look at all of those things. But yeah, and even policies. And I know that payroll has a little less influence on policies than HR would, but I marvel at the complex policies that people try and put in a system. It's like, why does it have to be that complex? Is it necessary? Now, if it's a CBA or something like that, sure. But being open to simplifying policies and processes, I think is number one.
Yeah. You kind of took my next question, but it was more
Ugh.
about it was more about HR and payroll and really helping them collaborate more effectively, right? So you have payroll,
Mm.
HR, maybe it's in the same department, so how they can collaborate more effectively instead of operating in silos. So I think you kind of answered that, but I don't know if you want to add anything to that because you probably do see that a lot.
I do, and actually, I'm doing a presentation on this for the Pittsburgh Human Resource Academy next
Okay.
month.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I think the processes are important too. I marvel at the fact that there's always so much tension between HR and payroll because I look at it like we're in this together, right?
Yep.
If we have a particularly difficult employee, we all have to deal with that person. Or even a situation, legislation that comes out, it often crosses over HR and payroll, and we need to understand each of our parts in it. One of the biggest issues that I see is there's no clarification on roles and responsibilities. So HR is saying payroll's doing that, payroll saying HR is doing that. I'm saying let's look at what proper segregation of duties are, and we'll make that determination because there are certain things that payroll should never be doing. And so I think that roles and responsibilities are a big issue. I, in my opinion, HR and payroll should meet, even if it's for lunch, once a month and talk about what's new in their world and how it affects the other one, because everything affects, each other. And even with when your system vendors is updating the system, reviewing release notes, I think HR and payroll should do that together,
Mm,
because if there's something new that is happening on either one, it's probably affecting the other one.
right. So, what role does payroll play in shaping the company culture and the employee trust?
Well, obviously getting paid right and on time.
Yep.
That's number one.
Yep.
But again, anticipating employee needs,
Yeah.
and what's going to make the employees happy, and then being able to implement those things. When you listen to podcasts or go to conferences, and see different presentations, you can see all the exciting things that are available
Right.
to offer your employees. A lot of them are at a minimal cost. And that is just something that really helps, generate employee goodwill and make employees feel like you care
Yeah.
and about them.
Yeah.
So I think that, yeah, I think employees are front and center though, and you have to just be a person to them, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Instead of using, like, I have heard people use payroll jargon when talking to employees, and I'm like, that's not, they don't understand what you're saying to them. You have to explain it to them. And not only explain it to them, take ownership. If it's something you did, gosh, I've made my share of mistakes. If it's something I did, I usually will tell it myself to the employee. So, but here's what happened. Here's why it happened. Here's what I'm going to do about it now. And here's what I'm going to do about it to prevent it from happening in the future.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. It it really comes down to the organization having the right system, technology, people in the right seats, so that whoever is handling HR and payroll, they can work together and collaborate like you talked about. Great. Because, if you're inaccurate in paying people, you have a hard time filling jobs as it is. Sometimes people don't realize that payroll HR's function is to hire, potentially recruit. Managers are responsible for helping that new hire, helping that teammate um, get acclimated, help with their career, try to retain them as a client or as a
Mhm.
staff member, and payroll should be done 100% accurate every time. It's like we have one of our sales team members, and he talks about the offensive line on a football team, and it's like that offensive line has 100 plays, and if they do 99 right and they get one penalty, that could mean that they could lose the game. So
Mhm.
it's like having accuracy and being in a situation where you can change and correct errors quickly when it comes to
Yeah.
someone's pay, taxes. Oh my gosh, Ohio and some of these complex states, people don't really keep up. And they just think really helping flip a switch and everything's done and fixed and fine.
Yeah.
So, so
Well, I
payroll.
think,
Yeah, sorry.
sorry,
Go
I was
ahead.
going to say, I think one thing too that HR and payroll both don't realize is that they are each other's clients.
Yeah, yeah,
So, payroll needs to get HR's paychecks right. And HR could be very instrumental in that development plan we talked about.
right.
So, I think that they need to realize that too. Be
Yeah,
friends, but also, you're providing a service to each other.
yeah. So if you are watching live or if you're watching this on demand, you have a chance to win a free copy of the new Payroll Like a Boss book coming out next month. And all you got to do is put the word boss in the comment. And so we're going to pull the names by tomorrow at this time at 2 p.m. So St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, you might be out for lunch.
Am I green?
Oh yeah, see, you're ready. Having some green food, drinks, whatever. Don't forget to put boss in the comment, and we will put you in that drawing for a free book. So So, Tammy, for payroll professionals who want more visibility and influence in their situation, what steps should they take?
One of the biggest fundamentals in the book, and one that I have personally kind of made it my mission for my own personal growth, is to be brave. And I think that bravery is really important for payroll professionals. They tend to be very humble. I spoke to quite a few payroll professionals that are very highly regarded in the industry, who shared with me that, yeah, they suffer from imposter syndrome at times.
Hmm.
And it's very widespread. And I think people need to first understand the value that they bring to the organization, and also then start using your voice. Find it and then use it. But then also make sure you're communicating effectively. So when you see something coming down the pike, maybe it's some new legislation and it's going to be a big deal, and there needs to be, some sort of campaign or project happening around it, to be able to put together that business case. Like, don't just let them know it's happening, let them know what you're going to do about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. It's really hard when you go to a manager and you say, "This is broken, we need to fix it." And the manager's like, "Okay," right? Tell them what you give them some options. Here's what I think we should do about it,
Yeah.
because you're the expert in this. And I think just a lot of people don't feel like their opinion is valued, and it should be.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, if no one's listening to you, find the best possible way to make them listen to you. They say, if you don't get that seat at the table, invite yourself. I mean, and I know that's easier said than done, but figure out a way, like have it sit down and talk to someone who has some influence one on one.
Yeah. Have another one in the comments. It says LinkedIn user, but on my end, it came up as Georgette. I don't know why it doesn't say her name, but it is another person in the raffle. So we have a few already, which is great.
All right.
Uh,
Cool.
so Tammy, the book comes out April 28th.
Hmm.
So walk me through a little bit about that before we finish with my final question, and kind of
Okay.
go back to when the first time it was ever brought up, like with John and whoever else is involved, like, hey, we should write a book about payroll.
Yeah, I'm looking for my copy of HR Like a Boss. I should have had it here.
All right.
When I read HR Like a Boss, I have all these little tabs. I told John he can use it as a visual in the presentation. All these things I marked
Yeah.
that I was like, oh, yeah, this is relevant to payroll too. So is this, so is this.
Yeah.
The thought hadn't occurred to me when I approached John about writing a book. Um, it wasn't originally intended to be a Like a Boss book. And it was bothering me so much that the no I shouldn't say no one, there's a lot of people advocating for payroll, but I think the more voices you hear, the more books that are out there, the more people are going to listen. And so I went to John and I said, I would really like to write a book, and I'd like to partner with you on this because sure, I don't know what I'm doing. And he was like, sure, that's great. Well, if you know anything about the Like a Boss framework, right, there's two principles involved, and that's ownership and love. And John came up with this framework. You have to have ownership in what you do, treat it like it's your own business, and you need to love what you do, because that you're going to pour more of your heart into it if you love it. And then along with that, we have a lot of fundamentals. And I think some people would be surprised by some of the fundamentals, because we do have kindness in there, bravery, just then there's the whole networking and attention to detail, which is not just like, right, payroll professionals, they're detail oriented people, but true attention to detail again is listening to employees and what they need and what they want, anticipating what your leaders are going to need as far as analytics go, what would be helpful to them. And so that's true attention to detail. So that's just a couple examples of what we have in the book. But that's when John came back and said, why don't we marry this? Why don't we take Like a Boss and Payroll and put them together? And so we did. And so, as far as the book goes, John is basically the Like a Boss expert. I bring in the payroll expertise.
Yeah. No, that's very exciting. I'm very excited for you both. And you said Danny Schultz is
Thank you.
another one in the book, correct?
Oh, yeah. We have some great people featured in the book.
Very cool. So if you are interested in obviously being involved in the raffle for a free copy of the book once it's released, all you got to do is put the word boss in the comments. Deadline is tomorrow, March 27th, or I'm sorry, March 17th. Getting ahead of myself at 2 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to close it down then and see who's in there for the drawing for a free copy. But obviously you can find it when it's released on Amazon, I'm sure, and other places. So follow Tammy and John Bernatovich on LinkedIn if you are not. So Tammy, I'm going to leave you with this question, and I think it's a great one to finish. You're passionate about mentoring. You had mentioned someone in your life. What advice would you give someone that just is starting a career in payroll today?
I just had a conversation with someone on Friday. First of all, I think that a lot of people who are just starting out, they know they like it, they know they want to get into it, they might not be in the right place. And that's okay. And I tell people, learn as much as you can while you're on that job. I had a conversation on Friday with someone very young and who has a very promising career ahead of her. And she is torn. She's like, I know there's so much to do here. I feel like I'm constantly firefighting, and I don't know if this is ultimately the right place for me. And again, learn as much as you can. And I said, and let's sit down. Let's talk about what you can do while you're there, right? Let's get a plan in place. Start doing payroll like a boss. While you're there, you're going to build your reputation. So that is the number one thing. And then I just can't stress networking enough. My network is probably one of the most valuable assets in my life.
Yeah.
And, to be honest, I love to tell this story. When I did lose my job at the bank, I didn't have to look for a job because John already knew me and he knew my reputation. And so he offered me a job. And what gets better than that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to, any kind of industry that you're in, and just, if you don't have a mentor, there is a great book that I am starting to read from one of my former guests. His name's Pete Schramm, and he wrote a book called Pathfinders, right? So this is one that I just started reading, and it's about navigating your career map with a personal board of advisors. So whether you're in payroll, starting out in payroll, or some other industry, having a personal board of advisors is kind of a concept that I think a lot of people don't really take the time and effort to spend on that. But it really goes into the right people to be in your network, not just a bunch of friends and colleagues and people you go have coffee with, but like really people that might impact your career and help you in that next job move, or help you in that next introduction to a company or business that might want to, be hiring you. So that will never, I think, go away for a very long time as a great approach to any job. So this has been great, Tammy. I really
thank you.
Time. This has been so fun to dive into this a little bit. And best of luck to you as you get into this springtime with your book launch. And I'll be following along with everybody else. So appreciate your time today. I appreciate everyone's time today coming on and being a part of this. So I wish you all the best. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. So we will talk to everybody then. Have a good rest of your day. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy March Madness. We have a lot coming in to the world in this spring. So thanks again, Tammy. We'll talk to everybody.
Thanks, David.
Take care. Bye-bye.